Derrick Ashong, welcome to Voice of America. It's good to have you here today.
Thank you, Jackson. Great to be back with you.
I know we've communicated for long, but you've never really had a chance to come to the
No,
Voice
this
of
is
America.
my first time actually in the studio.
Right,
so
and we're so happy to have you. And you have a new album,
yes,
the Afropolitan. Tell us a little bit about that concept.
Okay, so Afropolitan is a concept that was written by a friend of mine, Taye Selassie. She's an author. She's of Ghanaian and Nigerian heritage, but she was raised in the U.S. I actually knew her when she was a kid. And she came up with this idea that there's so many of us who live astride different worlds and that our identities are not represented in the typical concepts of Africa or America or Europe. We're something different. And so she coined this phrase Afropolitan, and it very much spoke to me as a person that was born in Ghana, was raised in New York, in Brooklyn, and in Saudi Arabia, and in Qatar, and in New Jersey. I felt like that concept spoke to who I was better than anything I'd heard before. So this album is my musical interpretation of what it means to be an Afropolitan. And when you hear it, you actually hear that in the sound.
Okay, so how do you represent that musically? How do you represent this diverse upbringing that you know?
Well, you know Solfege already. And Solfege is really a band that already has a hybrid perspective. And that's because I write most of the music. And I am a hybrid person.
Right.
So when people ask us what we sound like, we're like, yo, it's like Bob Marley jamming with the Fugees on a street corner in West Africa.
I remember you telling me that the first time I saw you, and I spoke to you on the phone.
And when you put it together, you're like, well, yeah, that's Afropolitan. That is it right there. So when you listen to this record, I mean, it definitely, you hear hip hop and reggae at the root of a lot of it, but you also hear elements of the blues and elements of funk, all kind of interwoven, and obviously some West African influences too. And the thing is, when you tell people that, they're like, oh my God, or like, how's that gonna work? And we're like, just listen. Because what most people fail to realize is every single form of music I just mentioned can be traced to a common root.
Absolutely.
They all have the same roots. You just branch out in different ways. And it depends on how you do things rhythmically and harmonically and the tempo and the stylistic approach.
And you decided to give it away for free, right?
Yes,
free download.
Yeah, it's a free download. The idea is that we encourage people to not only download it, but to share it. Because for us, the most important thing is for as many people to hear it as possible. And there's a lot of times people are like, well, how are you going to make money? And,
absolutely. How do you make money?
So this is the interesting thing, Jackson. Artists don't make money selling records. Record labels make money selling records. You know, this is a band that was signed twice to record deal, and it didn't work out well for us. And so what we decided is, well, let's just look at the business model and the ways that artists make money, a variety of different things, but they're all predicated upon certain levels of notoriety. And as we were going, before we did this record, we were realizing like, wow, we're making all this money doing X and Y, Z, and P and Q, and we could do even better if we had a stronger following, because we have an international following, but
so cultivate the following as much as possible
and amplify the things that already make the money. Because for an artist, if you look at like the RIAA, Recording Industry Association of America, if you look at their statistics in 2003, back before the collapse of the industry, but I would say the collapse was happening, but there wasn't
the edge.
Exactly,
right
they're at the edge. They're on the precipice.
Digital music was starting to
exactly.
peak, and
so even then, before things got really truly hairy, you only had between 5 and 7% of major label artists be profitable. Now these are the artists on Sony and Warner and Universal.
In music sales.
Yeah, in record sales.
In record sales,
only
yes.
3 to 7% will be profitable. So if you say 5%, what happened to the other 95%? That means the other 95% of the artists at Sony or Universal or EMI never make any money on their records. And I mean, I could go into details of why that is, but when you look at that from the outside, people will be like, well, why would you give your record away for free? And I'm like, most artists, that's exactly what they do. They just don't realize it until after they sign the contract.
Right. Now, the first time I met you, which was way back in 2007, you had an album. I don't remember the title.
Heavy Structure.
Heavy Structure, right. Yeah. And I was at one of your concerts, banging, loved it. How is this album different from that?
Wonderful.
Because the last album had some of the elements that you describe in Afropolitan. I can see them working well in that album.
For sure. I mean, I think the roots for us have always been there, but I think we've matured as a band. And so from the way I write the way we write the music, the way we arrange it, the way we produce it, I think it's all been taken up a level. And so I would say two things that are interesting about this record. First, it's the most political record we've ever done. And when I say political, you know, it doesn't say like vote for candidate X. We never do that per se. We might say so in our personal lives, but musically, yeah, it's not so obvious. You know, it's more metaphorical, and at the same time, it's also the most spiritual record we've ever done, which was kind of an accident.
I mean, you could find a gospel tune on Afropolitan?
You won't find a gospel tune in it. Although, no, there is a gospel choir in one. But when I listened to the themes in the songs, after we had done the recording, I was like, it's a very spiritual album. And it's not necessarily a religious album per se, but there's something in it. There's something metaphysical about it and very grounded in our real lives. So I think that thematically and musically, it's the finest execution we've ever done of the ideas that come from here and here. And I think that's what we're seeing in the response. I mean, we've always been well received with our music, but this one, the fact that it's gotten so much traction before it was even released is a very good sign.
And you took quite a bit of time writing it, so you took your time, you put your fine work into it.
It took 2 years and just sat down and did it, and anything we didn't like, we went back and we re-recorded it.
What is Solfege and what's behind the name?
Okay, great question. So when you see the album, it's Derrick and Ashong and Solfege. DNA and Solfege, right? I'm DNA. And Solfege is, sometimes people see the picture of me and John, and they're like, oh, you're Derrick, so he must be Solfege. I'm like, yeah, something like that, something like that. But basically, Solfege is the name of the band. It's the whole crew. And the name, the title, is a way of teaching music, a way of teaching vocal music. So when you hear do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do a deer, a female deer, re, a drop of golden sun, right? Me, a name, I call myself, fa, a long, long way to run. All of that from the Sound of Music. The word that singers use for it is solfege.
Solfege, right.
Right? And it's a French word. We put a U in it because we got soul. So hence the title.
Great.
You can check it out right on my website, DerrickAshong.com, DerrickAshong.com. It's available on iTunes, Amazon, etc. If you have money, you go buy them. If you don't, you can download for free. Just share it with your peoples.
It's one of those albums you're not sure what is coming next.
Exactly.
You know, and you won't know what's the next song.
You won't know what's the next song. And they do, I mean, stylistically, we do things a little bit differently from a lot of bands. So yeah, it's hip hop, but it's not. It's reggae, but it's not. Like, I'll give you one example. This song we have called No More, right? And it's got this chant, and it says, you know, I turned to the westward wind to find my way, and it said, that's where we found you, so that's where you'll stay. So I turned to the King of Kings to show me the way, and he said, look to what's bound you, and you'll be a slave no more. And then we put in this whole rhyme, which puts in the other aspect of the theme, which says, slow flex, shoot from the neck, spit a little truth to put the peons in check. Some follow blind to the crimes they protect, but we bless the mic like a bulletproof chest in a war zone. Blood spill of blood for the money. Biggest criminals then watch the game like it's funny. Push a button, Mongo put a bullet in his neighbor. Watch his brother rise in anger to return the little favor. Soon enough they all go clear any form of opposition. Now send the boys to complete the bloody mission. Still whatever land the dear departed left behind, chop every drop of treasure left within the carry-on. Finding now you sip on Riviera. Watch as they scare the life out of the simple as they tell them it was terror. Based in the madness of a hate-filled armada. Sit back, spin a dime, another day, plenty dollar. I turned to the westward wind to find my way, and it said that's how we found you, so that's where you'll stay. So I looked to the King of Kings to show me the way. He said, look to what's bound you, and you'll be a slave no more. You can see my personal site with everything else at DerrickAshong.com.
Good to see you, brother. And hopefully we can have you back in the studio soon again.
I'm sure. More good stuff to come.
All right, brother.
All right.